Welcome to Crimepedia. I am your host this week. My name is Morgan. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And with me this week, as she is every single week, is my wonderful and lovely co-host. It's Cherry. Hello, Cherry. How are you?
Hello. Hi, everyone. All good, thank you. Very, very good. Looking forward to hearing your case this week after last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tough
I don't think it's going to be...
case.
I don't think there's ever a non-tough case that we cover, to be honest, though. But
No, that's true. Some of them just kind of sit. Some of them just kind of sit with you a little bit more, don't they? It's yeah. There's some of them just kind of yeah. It's a strange one. Sometimes the cases that you don't expect to be the ones that stick in your mind are the ones that you're sort of thinking about before you go to bed and things like that. And you kind of think to yourself, is there something that they're missing? Is there something? If only I could think of something that would help just push this case along a little bit, that you could just, send off to law enforcement that would maybe help. It would be helpful to the case to kind of, bring it all together. It's very strange. I'm talking to some victims of stalking this week. And that's a very underreported crime, or an underappreciated crime, I think is probably the best way to put it. The severity of it is very underappreciated. And that really opened my eyes this week to different types of crime. A lot of the crime that we do obviously is very serious. It's a murder. We do missing persons, which is very upsetting and it's very worrisome for the families. We don't do a lot of, we haven't covered a lot of stalking cases. And I think, I don't know if that's because they're not as widely reported, or the fact that when they are reported, it's because the stalking has got to a point where it's very serious and has resulted in endangering someone's life or killing somebody. So I think the implications of the stalking from a victim's point of view, I didn't realise personally were as severe as they were until this week. So it's really opened my eyes on that. So I'm going to look into some more cases of that, I think, because I think that'll be important for people to listen to and understand.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we get into this week's episode, we do have a few thank yous to give. So it looks like we actually have a few new Patreons. Newest one, we have Philip, who joined us. We have Nikki, Bianca. I believe, I don't know if we said thank you to Victoria, but thank you, Victoria. So
thank you all.
So
we really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for joining Patreon. If you're not a subscriber on our Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Crimepedia. And you can be like Philip, and for just $2 a month, you can be a friend of Crimepedia.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend that we have really, really intellectual conversations on our Crimepedia extras, because we absolutely don't. It's usually a bit more of a chat, really, between the two of us, because obviously our cases that we talk about are very, very very emotive, and they're very serious, and we do take them really seriously. And we did get asked a lot about, us and kind of the kind of chat element part of it, because a lot of people don't like to listen to that so much in a crime podcast. So that's where you'll get all of that from, over on Patreon. So we'd love to have you over there with us, and we appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this week, Cherry, we have another case. This is actually a missing persons case from 1976. Very interesting case, and it's one where, to be honest, I am not sure what happened. So hopefully we can get this case out. People can listen to it, and maybe there's someone out there that has some sort of information, and we can get some sort of resolution. So this is the disappearance of Brian Vargo. College years are typically a time of significant transformation. For many, it marks the initial taste of genuine autonomy, starting a path towards personal discovery. However, in 1976, this quest for self understanding might have contributed to the disappearance of one college student. This is Crimepedia, and this is the disappearance of Brian Vargo. All right, Sherry. Brian Vargo was born on September 8th, 1955, the second youngest of 5 children born to his parents, Rita and Frank. Now, he grew up in Houston, Texas, where he attended Westchester High School, where he was known for his reserved demeanor. Now, Brian didn't necessarily fit in with the in crowd, but he also wasn't excluded by his classmates. His personality was characterized by shyness and a tendency to be quiet. While he wasn't involved in organized sports, he did enjoy running and playing basketball recreationally. He occasionally participated in social drinking, taking advantage of the then legal drinking age of 18. His high school and college years included smoking cigarettes, a habit that he documented in his journals. Brian mentioned using running as a means to overcome his nicotine addiction, noting positive effects such as improved well being and weight loss. So good for Brian
Yeah.
that he was doing something to work on his health and to try to break that nicotine habit. Now, after graduating high school in 1974, Brian moved to Austin, where he attended the University of Texas, where he studied architectural engineering. Besides some normal college shenanigans, Brian had a very successful freshman year at college, which included making the dean's list in the spring of 1975. However, during the summer between his freshman and sophomore year, things began to change. Now, during the summer back in Houston, Brian had an encounter with the police one early morning. Now, he was stopped for driving on the wrong side of the road, and during the stop, the police discovered marijuana in his vehicle. Brian would be arrested. Now, in
Yeah.
1975, this was considered a fairly serious offense in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Brian would be charged with a misdemeanor possession of marijuana and was given a sentence of 30 days jail confinement. He also
Oh,
received a fine and a year probation that was enforced by the Harris County Probation Department. In August 1975, the Harris County Probation Department did issue a travel permit so Brian could go back to Austin so that he could return to college for the beginning of his sophomore year. Now, family members believe that this incident caused Brian to carry the shame of being arrested around with him. In letters and journal entries, he began speaking of losing interest in everything and not enjoying life. Um,
that's
so there's
worrying.
a lot of letters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Brian did leave a lot of um, written words, to
Yeah.
family, both in letters and journals. So we do have a lot of information on, like, his feelings at the time, which is good.
State of
One
mind kind
of
of
the
thing.
Yeah, one of these letters stated, um, said, "I believe that I have fallen upon the scourge of revenge and blame in a time of failure. I have only myself to blame for my misgivings. I don't enjoy every part of life. In fact, I haven't enjoyed little, if any at all, of the past 2 years." So
That's horrible. That's a horrible to
it is
hear
really
someone
bad.
saying that. That's really horrible to especially if that's your family member. To hear
Mhm.
somebody saying, I've been feeling, really bad for the last 2 years. That's a long time to be feeling like that.
Right. I mean, I kind of understand, like, how he would feel after being arrested. So
Yeah.
when I was 18, I was with some friends at a at an Oktoberfest up in this small town, and you know, being 18, we're gonna do stupid stuff, and so we decide, oh, let's take some beers from his granddad's fridge or whatever, and drink them out back. And so we went and we were drinking beer, and um, two police officers walked up and found us and asked for IDs, and of course we were under the legal drinking age at the time, and so they
Hmm.
took us down to the police station, and we sat there, and um, I don't remember how long we were there, but eventually, like, his granddad came to get us, and so got us out, and they told us, well, you guys are going to get a summons to be in court, and look for that in the mail. So obviously, like I had to tell my
Scared.
parents, and
Yeah.
yeah, but I thought my life was over, right?
Well, of course,
So
it's like the
not
worst thing ever. Yeah.
oh no, yeah, it was absolutely horrible. It's like, what am I going to do with my life now? It's like now I'm a criminal. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious for me. It's understandable how Brian would feel at that time.
Yeah.
Like, I just ruined my life over what?
A beer. Yeah.
Yeah. In hindsight, not a big deal because
No.
that letter
No.
that was supposed the letter that was supposed to come in the mail for me never arrived. And you know why? Well, because granddad was like best friends with chief of police, and so he's like, hey, those are my grandkids. They're good kids, and so
Yeah.
it never happened. So, but yeah,
Lucky for
it's
you. Yeah.
yeah, lucky, definitely lucky for me. So not a huge deal in life, but I can understand why he would feel like things were kind of where things were bad.
But if you're a child, if you're underage and you listen to this, don't drink underage, kids. Not a good
Do
idea.
not, definitely
It
not.
is a big deal.
Alcohol is alcohol is gross. It's disgusting.
It should be drunk in
Now,
moderation when you're over 20. What's the legal age there? 21?
21. Yeah,
Yeah,
21
over
here.
21. Just wait till you're 21.
There it's like 8 months, right? Something like that. Or maybe
18
maybe
here.
that's France. I don't know.
Yeah, 18. 18 here.
In all honesty, it's possible that there were two things going on with Brian at this time.
Yeah.
One, Brian Brian could have just been having the usual college student drama and angst,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
he was just, he's just being a kid, really. I mean, 20 years old, you're still a kid. He's just being a kid. I mean, he was he was probably trying to figure out who he was in the world, right? And he's probably having a
Yeah.
hard time
Yeah.
doing that, which I think a lot of people do at that age, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an adult, but you definitely don't feel like an adult, and you
That's
don't
right.
know. And there's a lot of changes going on in your life, and you don't know where you're going to go and what's going to happen. So, I mean, that could be one thing. The other thing is that he could have been having some real life crises in his life, and he was trying to understand what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So, I do think he probably had probably both, a little bit of both, right? So he has
Yeah.
this conflict going on in his head about like who he is and what he wants to do with his life and where life is taking him. And I think that kind of weighed heavily on him.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, at that point in your life, there's a lot going on, and you are kind of still figuring
Mhm.
out your way in the world. I mean, some people are still figuring out the way of the world in their well into their 40s. Some people are still
No,
trying to
right.
work out
Yeah.
what the hell's going on. So I think that for him, you don't know really from what he's saying. It sounds really serious, but like you say, at that age, sometimes if something happens, it can be like all consuming. It's the end of the world for you. But there's
Hmm.
always a way. However bad it feels, there's always a way through. You can work anything out. You know,
Yeah.
it's never the end. There's always a way to work things out. You can work through things. People's minds are very fickle. Um, and small town mentality is very fickle, but it changes, and it won't be you forever that they're talking about. It'll be somebody else.
Hmm.
So I think it sounds like I mean, to me, in listening to what he's writing, it sounds really serious, and it sounds like he's really struggling, but obviously we don't know why exactly. But
Yeah.
it sounds to me like he's really struggling. It just sounds like he needs a bit of help.
No, absolutely. I mean, the other thing is, so there was another letter that he had written. This was actually 2 years prior, so it was 1974.
Mm.
And I'll read this. It's kind of goes on further to kind of explain like how he's feeling. So the letter goes to the idiot who reads this. Hello, my name is Brian Vargo. I am an 18-year-old boy of two 50-year-old parents. I live in a so-called affluent neighborhood. So what? Today I realize a tragic thing. I cannot remember the last time I have shaken hands with my father. It might be that I shook his hand prior to when I was 8 years old, but chances are against it. Also, I have not kissed my mother, but once in the past 8 years, give or take a year. It could be either of our faults or all of our faults. But one thing is for sure, love is not reason for the lack of it, I hope. You may think this may not be tragic and that I will live through it, but I'm frightened to a small degree whenever someone touches me. not just with my parents. It makes a wreck of my love life. That is for sure. I'm probably not the first person who has noticed this in themselves, but I am sure that if you were that someone, you would be concerned. Ever since I was 8 years old, about the time I first learned to cut the grass, at that point the letter would end, right? So we don't
Yeah.
know if there's more or if there's another page. But long story short, I mean, he's struggling.
Yeah.
There's struggle in this
Yeah.
kid.
100%. I mean, that sounds to me like he really, really needs some help. Because
Hmm.
he's an internal struggle for him. He's trying to work out the relationship between mum and dad and him and where he fits in that family. And obviously, he's craving love and attention and doesn't feel like he's
Hmm.
getting it. Whether or not mum and dad feel
Yeah,
like they're giving that love and attention over, and not anything to say anything about their parenting, but he is explaining that he doesn't. He's missing that affection, and that in turn is making him not affectionate in his then physical relationships as an adult. And
yeah,
obviously, he's now internally arguing with himself and struggling with himself about these things. He sounds almost
yeah.
like it sounds almost like I think he could have benefited for some counseling, I think, here.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And to have these feelings, um, I think is normal in a sense, right? But then with him already being shy and being quiet, it just
Yeah.
compounds his situation, right? So he's not
Yeah.
outgoing. He might be. He wants to find love. He wants to find affection. He wants to find some sort of closeness with someone, but
Yeah. He's struggling with it.
his he's struggling with it because I don't think he knows how to do it and how to break out outside of his shell. And I think at this point in his life, I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to break out of that shell.
And I wonder if he there's been some kind of catalyst to this. I wonder if there's been some kind of event, maybe with a partner or something's happened that's making him
Hmm.
now, because he mentions, doesn't he? If you were that person, I wonder if there's something like that going on. Where maybe something's happened with another female or a male or something intimate, and it's gone a bit wrong, and now he's questioning everything because that hasn't gone to plan. He wants it to happen, but
Yeah.
it's not happening for him. That sounds It'd be quite interesting to find out.
I Now I do know, like, so over this summer 75, when he ended up getting arrested, he did meet a girl who lived out of state.
Right.
Um, and I believe she was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So the two of them would write back and forth for at least a period of time. I know at least in one of the letters, she indicated that he should go up to Cheyenne to see her, but I think she was kind of conflicted too because she had a boyfriend at the time,
Uh,
and she was like, I know that he wouldn't like it if I were to go out with some other guy, especially someone from Texas. So I think there was some sort of, it seemed like there
yeah,
was something
yeah,
between the two, but
yeah,
there's obviously things that were keeping them apart.
yeah. It sounds very like love angst. If you were to ask me, listening to this, if you were to ask me the age range of this person, the writer of this, I would have said,
Uh-huh.
I reckon between kind of 18 and 21. It's that kind of, it's that
Yeah.
angst, isn't it, of relationships and the in and out of it becoming in more like at high school, it's not always an intimate relationship, but when you get to college and you get from there
Mhm.
on, the relationships change and it becomes a bit more pressure. And obviously if you've got him like crushing on this girl and she's crushing back on him, but there's this boyfriend
Mhm.
involved and this, he's feeling inadequate anyway, having this boyfriend is going to make him feel even more inadequate. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
this sounds totally like teen angst kind of thing to me. I would think that straight
Oh,
off if I was looking
100%.
into this. Yeah.
100%. No,
And he
I
doesn't obviously
completely
feel like
agree
he
with
can
that.
talk to his parents about it because they haven't got a relationship. By the sounds of what he's saying, the relationship isn't
Mhm.
that close that he could approach his father and ask for like, man and man kind of chat to see, because obviously his dad's been in a relationship. His dad has been a teenager. He's been there. He's done it. But it doesn't sound like they've got the kind of
Uh,
relationship where he can openly speak to his dad about that.
no, I think that from what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard is it was the dad was a veteran. He was a war veteran.
Right.
So he wasn't it doesn't seem like he was the most affectionate of people. Not that he didn't love his
Right.
children,
No, of course not.
but
No, but
it's just different. I mean, this is a
his
different time
way.
too, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean,
70s.
this
Yeah.
is a much different time.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it was very much business like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like they own their own restaurant, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, and I know at one point it was like it was either you're going to go to college or you're going to work in our restaurant, and those are your
Yeah.
two options,
Yeah.
right? That's it. You don't have any other say in it. You either work in the restaurant or you go to college. And
Yeah.
so I think Brian's kind of like, and that makes sense. I mean, Brian's trying to like he wants to be his own person,
Mm.
but I don't think he feels like he has the ability to at this point because
College, yeah, that's right.
he has all these expectations of what he's supposed to be
Yeah.
and what he's supposed to do. Like I said, it's a really tough time for a lot of people. So, and I
Yeah.
know it had to been really tough on him.
Yeah.
Now, by the fall of 1975, Brian was no longer doing well in school. So I mean, it's a drastic change. I mean, he just got off the dean's list. He had some incidents over the summer. He's back in school, and now he's not doing well. His grades did begin to fall sharply. During the winter quarter of 1976, Brian actually stopped going to 3 of his 4 classes. So he just
Oh, it's
completely
just
stopped going to
yeah.
most of his classes. Now, according to journal entries from around this time, Brian indicated that he felt like he was missing something intangible in his life, and so
Yeah.
it seemed like he felt like he needed to go search for whatever he thought was missing
Something's
in his
missing.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. On March 9th, 1976, Brian dropped out of school. Now, he would tell no one that he had done so. So
I
no
can
one was
understand
aware
that.
at the
Yeah.
time that he dropped out,
Yeah.
right? So I believe that winter quarter ended on March 20th. So like we're talking 10 days basically from when the school semester ended. And after that was spring break. So for that he actually told his friends at that time that he was going to go spend some time on a self-guided tour of Colorado during spring break.
Okay. Yeah.
Now he would return to Houston after dropping out to retrieve his 1972 Mazda RX-2. Now, this is a car that he had bought on his own. He had gotten a job at a grocery store, um, but it wasn't the most reliable car. It said that this car often had a hard time, like even starting,
Oh
and so
no.
to get the car started, he would actually have to get out and do a push to get started. So
Yeah,
you have
like a
to push
bump
the car
start.
to
Yeah.
actually get it started, right? So not a reliable car, and this is the car that he had planned to take to Colorado. So he seemingly headed off to Colorado, but somewhere along the way, the car would break down. Rather than have it fixed, Brian decided that he was going to return to Houston to collect the title to the Mazda, as he decided he was just going to sell it off. All right.
Yeah.
So he ends up back in Houston. This is confirmed. He went back to his parents' house. At his parents' house, he searched for the car title. After finding the title, they believe he found the title. Um, his mother actually would drop him off at a bus station in Katy, Texas, and Brian was never seen or heard from again at this point.
Okay.
Now, so he was just dropped off. So his mom doesn't even know for a fact that he got on a bus or that he bought a bus ticket. It's assumed that he did, but she didn't wait to see him off. She just dropped him off and left. So we're not
Wow.
sure exactly
Did he
what
even get on
happened
the
after this
bus?
point.
Yeah.
We don't know if he got on the bus. We don't know where the bus even was going. So no information whatsoever. When Brian never returned to campus or his apartment after spring break, his family would be notified by his roommates. Now, initially, the Vargo family wasn't too worried about this. They thought Brian might have just gone on a journey to find himself. Um, Prior to leaving, Brian actually did write a letter to his father that said that he needed to take some time and to get away. because of this, his family believed that Brian would return when he was ready.
Yeah.
Now, things would change after receiving a call from a mechanic in Colorado whose shop Brian had left his car. So Brian had actually taken it to a mechanic to have it looked at. He left it there before heading back to Houston. The mechanic would tell Brian's family that he had not returned to get the car. He would also tell them that the car had been broken into and that he wanted to settle up with the car. So obviously, Brian owed the mechanic some money for I don't know if it was for looking at the car or for storage or whatever it might have been, but the
Yeah.
mechanic wanted to get it taken care of. Um, Now, Brian's family is actually unsure of what happened to the car after this, as there is absolutely no evidence that the vehicle title was ever transferred to anyone else. So no one ever saw the car. No one ever went to go retrieve the car. We don't know what happened to the car.
Okay.
It just basically disappeared. Okay.
Right.
Now there was some other worrisome things. So Brian's wallet and watch would be later found at his apartment in Austin. So it doesn't appear
So
as
he
though he
might have
had
gone
his
back.
wallet with him. Yes,
Right. He
exactly.
could have gone back. Yeah.
Now there is possible evidence that he might have gone back to Austin before going somewhere else. There were people that did come forward and say that they did see Brian over spring break. Obviously, you can't confirm it was Brian or not, but there were people that said, yeah, they did see him after this last date that or after being dropped off at the bus station at Katy. But like I said, there's no confirmation of this, but besides people believing that they did see him. I believe one person said that he saw Brian talk to him, and Brian had told him that he had been to Mexico and that he had lost his virginity with someone in Mexico in a bathroom. So, which doesn't sound like Brian at
Yeah.
all, right?
No. Hmm.
I don't see like being an introvert, being shy and quiet. I don't see him like hooking up with someone in a Mexican bathroom, to be honest. Unless he went through some crazy change in a very short period of time.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, it makes you wonder whether, I mean, he's contemplating life. On he's contemplating what's happening. And by the sounds of things from what you said, the relationship
Mhm.
between him and his parents isn't a close one. And if that's the
Yeah.
case, I mean, does he have any brothers and sisters, or is he an only child?
He is one of 5. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, so
he's
he
the
has got brothers
sex
and
yeah.
sisters. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, of course. No, because I read that Brian's sister, they've all uploaded their DNA. The family have uploaded their DNA to like
Yep.
some GED match thing to see
Yep.
if they can find, which is brilliant. But
That's correct.
I wonder if for this particular case, this sounds like he's a candidate for having gone and started a new adventure. This is
Yeah.
a that's how it kind of sounds, in that he's struggling with life as it is, and he would be a candidate for somebody who has gone, okay, I'm just going to go off and start something new, start a new life and be a new person and be the person that I want
Mhm.
to be rather than the person that I am, because it sounds like he's
Yeah.
struggling with the person that he is for whatever reason. So
Right.
it's very interesting to see. I mean, his family are campaigning online to try and get his story out there as far and wide as they can. They obviously care for him very, very
Yeah.
much. They obviously do, and
Yep.
his siblings obviously care for him too. So it's very it's very interesting that his parents, there's not I haven't been able to see a lot about his parents kind of like campaigning to find
There's
him,
not a
but
whole lot.
there's yeah, it's
We will get to that. It's a very that's a very interesting point. We'll get to that.
because what
And
age would he be
you brought up
now?
another point. He'd be 68
60. Yeah, so
now.
he's going to be like, yeah, it's that's a whole lifetime. You know, if he
That is
was
a
to have gone
whole
and
life.
started again at 20, he could have a
That is a
whole new
whole life.
family, a whole new background,
Yeah.
a whole new life. You know,
Yeah.
he could be living across the other side of the world where the GED
N
matching isn't going to be a thing.
Mhm. It is believed that Brian did have a fake ID, at least at one point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I'd be interested to know if that's what he used. Like, if he didn't have his wallet and if his ID was in that wallet, if he had that fake ID and that's what he used to
yeah.
start a new life.
Another thing is he's got the look of him is quite an individual look. He has this long, beautiful blonde hair. If you were to cut
Mhm.
that hair short or shave it, he would not look like the same person. His facial features
Right.
aren't so defining that he would look the same either way. If you were to
Right.
cut that hair short, he would look like a completely different person. His hair is very
You're
long,
absolutely
very
right.
thick, very wavy. So it's quite
Mhm.
difficult when that's the photo that you've got to share. It would be very interesting to see some maybe age progression pictures of him without the, because I would think if he had the long hair, if it's his choice to go missing and he decided that if that's the case, he's going to try and make himself look as drastically different as he possibly can. So that hair is going. He's going to have shaved that
Yeah.
short and changed his look as much as he can. So it'd be very
Mhm.
interesting to he had that, what's it called? David Cassidy. If you're old enough to know who David Cassidy is,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
kind of got blonde David Cassidy locks. I think that's how
Yes.
it's kind of come through to me. Um,
Absolutely.
that's interesting. So it would be
It's
very,
very interesting.
very he would look totally different. So it'd be interesting to get maybe it'd be great to see a composite, somebody that could sit and do some different progression pictures of him, perhaps looking very different to what he does in that picture. That could help,
Mhm.
you know, somebody if they saw it go, "Oh my god, that's, Joe from the corner store," because it looks just like him.
Mhm.
Because the younger picture of
It's
him,
happened.
necessarily people aren't going to have seen, are they?
No, exactly. Exactly. Now, Brian's mother, Rita, would contact the police and explain her concerns about his disappearance. But as Brian was an adult, there was very little the
That's
police
right.
could do,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So
Yeah.
they would, an adult can leave whenever they want. They could disappear whenever they want.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean, we can't really do much to help you. Because of this, there are no records of Brian being reported as a missing person filed with police in either Houston or Austin. Now, shortly after this, Brian's family would hire a private investigator to look into his disappearance. Yeah. According to one of Brian's roommates, the private investigator's line of questioning seemingly indicated that his approach was that this had to have been drug related, which is
No,
not.
really? I'm not sure about that.
It is not. Now, while Brian had been around some addicts while living in Austin, Brian only smoked marijuana and drank beer.
It's
So
a natural
this
thing
is
though, isn't
not.
it? It's a natural thing. When you've got a case like this where somebody just seemingly goes missing, the
Mhm.
the natural thing to do is to think of all scenarios. So you go down the is it a trafficking? Has he been trafficked out of somewhere? Has he been murdered somewhere? Everybody considers every single thing because there isn't really anything leading either way. It's just a complete stop in his story, isn't it? There's nothing really,
Yeah.
and it's strange, obviously, that his wallet is found at home and that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
back in his apartment. So I think that's the thing everybody's trying to cover, and I don't know how helpful that is. I don't know how helpful that is in a case like this, that people are speculating
Yeah.
that he's got something to do with drugs, and I don't know if that's very. I mean, your best bet would be to talk to the family on that one, and the best bet would be to speak to the family and find out, because I mean, he's got brothers and sisters. If that's the case, his brothers and sisters are likely to know whether he's the kind of guy that's going to have been involved in drugs, because as a sibling,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that you don't tell parents. There's like a sibling code, isn't there, that you and your siblings get away with and do things that parents don't necessarily know about. So I think the key here would be to speak to the siblings and to see that. I think they would have a better idea of the real Brian than maybe a
Yeah.
parent, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I understand. Once again, I said this a little bit ago, but this is a completely different time, right?
Oh yeah,
So marijuana
100%.
was looked at as a gateway drug, and people that do marijuana, they're troublemakers, and
Yes,
next thing
yes.
you know, it's going to lead them to doing heavy drugs,
No.
and so I can understand. This is like an old school way of thinking about things. So
Thinking,
yeah, the
yeah,
private
yeah.
investigator is gonna look like, okay, well, he obviously is a druggie because he does marijuana. So let's kind of dig into that angle,
Yeah.
right?
It doesn't work
I
like
mean,
that.
it shouldn't shock you that this investigation by the private investigator would go cold very, very quickly. So nothing came out of it.
Which is a shame. It's a shame for the family because obviously they're pinning everything on as much information as they can, trying to get as much
Hmm.
information out of everybody as they can. And it's very frustrating for them for it to just stop like that. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is actually interesting because I didn't know that this was a thing. But in 1977, Brian's mother Rita reached out to the Salvation Army's missing person department. Do you know what the Salvation Army is, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, we have that here.
Yeah. So apparently, I don't know if they still have it, but at least in the 70s, they had a missing persons department that would
Right.
work with families of missing persons, right?
Yeah.
Um, by April 1978, the Salvation Army began their investigation into Brian's whereabouts. They would pursue leads indicating that Brian had mentioned plans to travel to Colorado in addition to California. So now
Right.
they're looking into Colorado, looking into California. Maybe he went there, see if they can find anything. Now, all leads were actively followed up. The organization also planned to request the Social Security Administration's help in forwarding a letter to Brian, hoping to obtain a current address through this method. Okay, so they were trying to see because if Brian would have worked using his Social Security number, the Social Security Administration would
It would
have some
show
sort of
up.
address.
Yeah, of course.
But there was there was nothing on him. So after his disappearance in 1976, there was no activity on his social security number. So he hadn't received any sort of pay using
Right.
that number. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
I've just had a thought. You said that like
mhm,
he had this thing going on with this girl. Are we 100% sure it was a girl? Do we have a name for this person?
Kim. Yeah, Kim.
So not just
Her
a
name was
girl's
Kim.
name, because Kim could be a guy's name
No,
too. So I'm
it could
wondering,
be.
I'm wondering that because obviously back in the 70s, homosexual relationships weren't as widely talked about as they are now and widely accepted as they are now. And I wonder
Uh
if
huh.
Kim was a man or a guy at least. And so that maybe these letters, maybe it isn't a female. Maybe it's a male. And
I mean,
I mean,
possible.
did they trace Kim? Did they ever trace Kim or
Um, I I think they did. I think if I'm not
okay.
mistaken, I think it was. I do think it was a female, and I think
Okay.
they were able to trace her to. This was much later, either in Arizona or New Mexico. Um,
Right, okay. Cuz I was just thinking that might be a reason to to move away and start again, if he knew that that relationship wasn't going to be accepted widely or it was going to bring shame on the family, and then that would explain also some of the kind of wording in his letters about being touched and
mhm,
if you're that person, it's kind of like
yeah,
he's leaving a message for somebody who he thinks is going to read this prior to him not being there. And it's kind of like it's an explanation to somebody. Like if you're that person, then I mean, why wouldn't he just write because this is a journal? Why wouldn't he just write in the journal, oh, because you know what happened and I don't know, for some reason, this happened. So that makes me think that he's writing that knowing that somebody's going to read it because of the language that he's used. So I was just thinking, okay, so what would make it shameful? What would make a reason for you to, not that it is shameful, but obviously at the time,
yeah.
what could be something that he would be ashamed of or he would be worried about? Could that be it? Could it be that Kim was actually a guy or there was a guy involved? I mean, is it a confusion of sexuality? Is it that he's struggling with? Because I'm trying to think of what at the
Maybe.
age of 20, the kind of things that are a huge deal to you that you struggle with. And relationships are a huge, like we've said, are a huge, you change very much between your 20s and your 40s in relationships. And so I'm wondering, could this be that rightly or wrongly believes that the relationship he's having is inappropriate or he sees it as a problem or he doesn't think people are going to understand? And that's why he's kind of like gone off to start again under a new guise and a new, a new him. But he's kind of written that letter
Yeah.
like he knows someone's going to read it. Because do you write a
Mhm.
journal? You write a journal for yourself usually. You don't usually write a journal knowing that someone's going to read it. But he's written that there to the idiot that's going to read this. So he knows
Right.
someone's going to read that. So has that been something he has manufactured himself, knowing that someone's going to pick that up and read that? Just a thought. It's
So
just
is
that
it
it popped in my head as you were
yeah.
talking about it. I thought, I wonder if Kim's actually a man.
So I just checked on this. So they were able to find a girl named Kim
Right.
who had lived in Cheyenne. What's interesting is in a letter that she had written to Brian, she mentioned I told you she was dating someone else. His name was Bill Samuels. Okay. Apparently they found this a girl named Kim who was in Cheyenne who went to school with a guy named Bill Samuels. Okay,
Right.
so
Okay.
they were able to track her down and ask her about it in a letter and ask about her relationship with Brian.
With Brian, yeah.
But she stated that it was not her who wrote that letter.
Or maybe he was having a relationship with Bill.
No, no, I don't think so.
It doesn't it? It seems strange, like that you've got that they've tracked her down, and she's saying, "No, it's not
Yeah,
me." But in the letters, they found out that she's in a relationship with a guy called
like
Bill.
hey, with
How many Bill
Bill
Samuels are there
Samuels,
in that
yeah,
school?
in
That's very
Cheyenne,
interesting. Exactly.
yeah,
How interesting.
who yeah, you have a
Yeah.
cheerleader named Kim who is in Cheyenne who goes to school with Bill Samuels.
See, this is the
I
thing.
mean,
This is what I'm saying to you. I mean, cheerleading. There was a lot of males involved in cheerleading back then too. So I don't know. I'm
mhm,
not 100% sure this Kim, or whether these letters are from who it's being signed by. Could it be that they're
yeah.
signing this letter under a different name? I mean, could it be that it's like that? I don't know. I don't know why that makes me
I
think it.
mean,
It just kind of makes me think that he's
yeah.
written that journal entry for a reason, and
I
the
would
like
say
the
that
inside joke there.
if it was someone else writing these letters and going through that effort, that's a lot of effort to be putting in to it.
Depends how
It's
into
very
this
elaborate.
relationship you both are. Yeah. But it depends how
Yeah,
it depends how, if that was frowned upon in your family, but that's the way you feel, you would have to be elaborate because you wouldn't want anyone to find out. It would be shameful. Not it isn't shameful
yeah,
by any means, but to that family it could be very shameful. So
right,
you may have to go out on a limb. You may have to be very, I don't know, it's just a thought. I don't know why I thought that. It just kind of made me think, Kim is it can be both, can't it? It can be both a female and a male.
right.
Interesting.
No, I mean it's true. Um, Now back to the Salvation Army real quick. So they actually did advise Brian's family to draft a letter to him that was warm and expressed concern about
Yeah.
not having heard from him, and then indicating their eagerness to communicate.
Yeah.
Now, the letter was it was advised that they avoid any content that might distress Brian. This letter would be read on April 26, 1978, and said, "This is okay. I'm going to read this to you, and
Okay.
I just want to get your opinion on this letter. So
Okay.
just know that they want it to be warm. They wanted them to express concern about not having heard from him.
Yeah.
They wanted them to indicate their eagerness to communicate and to avoid any detail or information or
Yeah.
any content that would distress him. Okay, so
Okay.
let me see what you think about this. It says, "My dear Brian, it is such a beautiful sunny day in Houston, and I hope the sun is shining in all aspects of your life. Also, some nice things have happened to our family since you left, and would enjoy sharing them. We have tremendous concerns over not hearing from you in over 2 years, and Dad and I and your brothers and sisters have such a great desire to be in touch." Then it went into Christina is making her first communion on May 14th. Then it says, "We share the idealism you have always had. P.S. We have a new number also, so please write."
Okay. So not. maybe not warm in the sense that we would say is warm, but
Mhm.
for their family, that could
Maybe.
just be how they are. So that's warm in their way. Um, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, if I was writing that, I would be saying like, "I love you, I miss you, I just want to know you're okay. I hope you're okay wherever you are." But
Y
it is
yeah.
soft. Like they're saying, "Oh, the
It
sun's
is.
shining." They're not focusing on the fact that he's missing and he's left them. They're trying to sort of kind of play it down a little bit. So I can see what they're doing, but it in the sense of it being warm as I would feel
Yeah.
loved and warm, maybe not so much.
Th There was one line which, like, kinda really rubbed me the wrong way, which was and I don't kn something about it. If I would have read that, I mean, I could see how Brian could have misinterpreted that. When they said, "Some nice things have happened to our family since you left."
See, I see that as
Like,
the other way. They're trying to kind of like say since you've left, it's been sad, but some nice things have happened that we want to tell you
okay.
about. It kind of makes it
I
feel
take
like
it
we want to
as
share them with you.
yeah, I kinda take it as like, "Oh, great, because I left, now these nice things are happening." So
Isn't
it's
that
like
funny? See,
that's how I take it.
yeah, isn't it
Yeah.
funny how you can read the same letter but they interpret that two different ways? And seeing Brian could have completely interpreted that different to the way we both have.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
yeah. Just looking at it from
Now
a parent's point of view, I can see what they're trying to
mhm,
do. I can see what they're trying to say. But yeah, disappointed a little bit that there's not, we love you and miss you. But then that might not be
right.
their way. That might not be
It might not.
how they speak. In which case it would be
That's very
strange for them
true.
to write that. And he would be like, my dad would never say that, or my mum would never say that.
Yeah, that's true. Now
So,
it was all for naught anyways because this letter would end up being returned to the family since they could
oh,
not
that's
find an address for Brian.
yeah,
Now, despite all their efforts, the Salvation Army was unable to uncover any new leads, and the
mm,
case would be closed in 1980. Okay. Now, I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. Brian's parents always believed that he'd come back when he was
yeah,
ready,
yeah,
and because of this, Brian was not reported missing to the police until February 2nd, 2021.
right, okay,
So he went what 40 how many years was that? Like 40
yeah,
44 years, 46
yeah,
years, something whatever it was
yeah,
without being so for 40 some years there's absolutely nothing in regards to
yeah,
Brian Vargo. Um so there's no early police investigation.
no,
So you have to go back. I mean, think about how difficult that investigation would have to be. I mean, you have to start from scratch and you have to go back over 40 years to try to figure
yeah.
out what happened to Brian Vargo.
Well, you've got that golden hour that's well and truly gone, isn't it? It's more than a golden decade now.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, that makes
yeah,
things so difficult
it
because
does. It
you
does
can't,
make
I
things.
mean,
Yeah, it does.
even now you go back and you interview his friends and family,
Yeah,
people that he interacted with, what they remember from that time could be completely different than what actually happened.
yeah. Of course, that's right. It's got people's memories change over time a lot,
Mhm.
and that yeah, it
Like,
just
even now, like,
isn't it.
if you
Yeah.
were to ask me if you were to ask me about something that happened when I was in college, like, when I was living with friends in college, I can remember events, but I couldn't tell you, like, when they happened
Not
or
specifics. Yeah,
if event A happened before event B.
yeah. That's
I
true.
know that they
Yeah,
happened, but I don't know where in the timeline they
in which
actually
order?
occurred.
Well, yeah. Of
So
course, it's a long time ago.
that goes back to, like, "Oh, yeah, I saw Brian. He said that he
Yeah.
got on a bus and went to Mexico." I mean, maybe that did happen, but who knows if that happened
Mm.
during that spring break or did it happen beforehand? Did it happen after he, withdrew on March 9th? Because there's a 10-day window where you mean what is he doing during that time? So how can we actually take these events and put them in
That's
a
right. You can't.
accurate timeline?
You can't because it's human error, isn't it? You can't. We're not computers. We don't always remember things photographically. I mean,
Right.
I really, really hope for Brian's family that he has taken himself off to a different place and he has had a lovely, long, happy life being the Brian that he wants to be. And sad as it is that
Mhm.
his family aren't involved in that, I really hope that that's what's happened to him. There's nothing really here to say that anything nefarious has happened to Brian. There's nothing to say that, and I understand the family's still fighting to find out, because that must be horrible for them. The not knowing if he's okay, even if they just got a letter from him just to say, I'm fine. I just need to be, I just need to be me for a while, but I'm fine. That would make his mum at least know that he was okay. And that's very sad, being in a situation where you don't know where your child is, or your brother, if that's your family member, you don't know where they are, and you don't know if they're okay. And you think, okay, maybe he is off living a really good life, but what if he isn't? What if I give up, and he's counting on me to find out what happened to him? So it's so difficult as a family member to know whether you keep fighting and keep trying to find someone that doesn't want to be found, or to give up. But then if you give up, could it be that actually he needed you to find him? What a dilemma to be put into. It's a very cruel, it's a very cruel situation to be living in. And I really feel for his family. And if he is out there somewhere, and when this
Mhm.
pops up, because there will be podcasts that have talk about this, or there will be people that have done, missing persons articles about this, and I'm sure he'll be named in there
Yeah.
somewhere. If that's the case and he has read them, I really hope that he could at least drop a message back home to say, look, I'm fine, I couldn't be that Brian anymore. At least then they've got,
Right.
they know, at least they've got some kind of idea that, he's not hurt somewhere, or somebody didn't take him and traffic him off, or you know I
Right.
feel for them so much, because
Me
that must
too.
be really, really
I feel for
hard.
everyone. I feel
Yeah,
for
it must be
Brian. I
really
feel for his
hard.
family, his friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, and yeah, like you said, I hope that he's out there. I hope that he found whatever he was looking for. I
Yeah,
hope
I hope
he
so.
found love. I hope he found, he's out there with a healthy, loving family.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
I hope so too. I really
and
hope so.
and I hope one day, if he's ready and if he wants to, that he can, you know, get in touch with his family and let him know that he's okay and that,
Yeah.
you know, he lived a
He's had a
great
good
life.
life. Yeah, I hope so
Yeah.
too. I really hope so. I
Now,
mean, yeah.
at the t- at the time of his disappearance, Brian Vargo was 20 years old. He
Mm.
was approximately 6 feet tall and he weighed about 150 pounds. He was driving a white Mazda RX-2 with Texas license plates and may have gone to Colorado, as we said. He would now be 68 years old. And now, if you do have any information about the disappearance of Brian, it's asked that you call the Austin Police Department at 512-974-5210. So
I mean, his
that
height's
is
not
our
going to
case.
change, is it? His height's not going to change very much over the years.
Uh,
The height is going to
no,
be
I
round
mean,
about the same. I mean, he's maybe would shrink a couple of inches,
same.
but he's not going to, now go up to 6'8" or anything. So, yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if you have somebody in your family that doesn't really have very much of a past, or doesn't really talk about their life growing up, or
Hmm.
has no brothers and sisters and no kind of traceable background. It'd be very interesting. Have a look. I mean, there's a Facebook page that you can look at that is dedicated. I think it's run by one of Brian's family, and it's called Searching for Brian Vargo Missing. Have a look on there, because
Yeah.
I think it's his niece that runs that page. um and if
Yes.
you've got any questions, I'm sure she would be happy to answer the questions if you've got any ideas. So if you do have somebody in your family perhaps that is very, maybe fits that description, or is around that age, and you're kind of, I mean, what's the harm in asking? If you're wrong, you're wrong. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, but at least you've asked the question. But this reminds me, do you remember, this reminds me of the case that we did with the Irish guy, Peter Bergman, who was in Ireland,
Yes.
that had committed suicide, they think, on the beach, that had been and deposited all that
Yep.
stuff in the bins and got rid of all of his ID and stuff. This kind of reminds me of that, because a lot of people contacted me after that case and said, what if he doesn't want to be found? And you're doing an episode on a guy, and you're not honoring his wishes. He obviously didn't want to be found for a reason. Why would you do a case about him? And my answer for that one was because of his family. His family don't know where
Yeah.
he is, and we didn't go any further than that, and I understand. And I guess that we might have the same with this. What if he doesn't want to be found? What if he doesn't want
Right.
you guys to be putting his picture out there and he doesn't want to be found? But
Yeah.
that's
Well,
unfortunate.
there's a lot of things that I think that went into this over the years, right? So,
Mm,
taking the assumption that Brian did run off and start a new life somewhere. It started because of he felt like he was missing something. He had the shame of the arrest.
yeah,
He wanted, and so he leaves. At some point, I can imagine like him thinking, "Well, how can I like face my family again after I left like
that's
this? How
right.
can I face my
Yeah, of
family?"
course.
Right?
How can I go back? Yeah,
And then if you imagine him, okay, well, imagine this was you. You did this. You took off, and then you start wondering like, does anyone even care that I'm missing, that I'm gone? Is
yeah,
anyone looking for me? Because there's no police report, because there's no investigation.
yeah.
Maybe he's like looking at newspapers and there's like nothing about a missing, college student. So he's thinking, well, no one's looking for me, so no one really cares that I'm gone.
Mm,
So then he goes on with his life. So maybe he doesn't
yeah.
even know that his
Maybe.
family was concerned for him and they were
Yeah,
looking for him. They wanted to find him.
yeah. Yeah, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he moved
Yeah.
across, maybe he moved to a completely different country and has no idea that people are still looking for him.
Mhm.
And maybe, like you say, the shame of what happened with the arrest and everything, he feels like it's too much water has gone under the bridge to go back, and that he would just be causing, upset for his family, didn't want to go back to that life again. Perhaps that is. And I really hope that that is the case. I hope that he's alive and he's well and he's safe and he's loved and he's in a family
Yeah.
that love him. And I hope that his life has turned out how he wanted it to. And for his family, unfortunately, if that's the case, they're not going to know that. So I feel for both sides,
Yeah.
I feel like I'd like Brian to have the life that he wants because everyone deserves that. But on the other side, his family want to know that he's okay, even if they just know that he's okay. That would then help
Yeah.
alleviate the stress and the upset that they've got. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know
100%.
where he is. They don't need to know anything. All they need is something that will 100% prove that it is Brian writing the letter or the email, something, a fact in there that only his family can corroborate, because then that stops all of
Right.
the hoax ones that there is bound to be. Just all that's all he needs to do is just email them or message them and just say, I'm fine. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. That's it. And then they'll stop worrying, and they'll stop the what if.
Yeah.
And, I really hope that happens. And I'll keep an eye on this. I really hope that
Yeah.
the family get the answers that they want from
Something.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You are
That's a really,
welcome.
really interesting story, and something that could happen to any of us,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, it's a little harder in this day and age to completely
Mm.
disappear like that, but
That's right.
I mean, it can still happen. It can still happen. But yeah, I mean, you know, it, someone one day can decide, you know what, I need something else, and they can just get up
Yeah.
and
And it's as is their right. It's
move.
their life, as is their right to do that. They're
Yeah.
adults. They can do that if they want to. So yeah, well, let's hope that
No,
Brian, if
absolutely.
you are listening to this, just let your family know that you're all right, and that will it will ease a little bit of suffering for them. At least they'll know.
Yeah.
So after the case every week, if you don't listen every week and this is your first time listening, because of the cases that we do and the kind of cases that they are, we like to leave you with something that might make you smile. So this is a segment that we like to call Dumb Criminal.
Hey, Captain Stupid Poopy Pants. Use a dummy.
This criminal is a complete dummy. Now, this was a man from Iowa City who was a security guard, so working on the doors, and he lost his driver's license, or he had it stolen, he believed. So
Okay.
he went to work one evening and is working at the security of the club that he works at. This guy tries to get into the club. He asks for his ID, and the guy gives him his own driving license
No.
as his ID. How stupid!
Oh
How
my
stupid must you
god.
be to use the license that you've
No.
stolen, that obviously has got a picture of the guy on it, and give him it as if it's your ID? That guy, the
Oh,
security guard, must have looked at that and
no.
gone, "What?
Wait a
This is
second.
mine." Yeah.
Could you
Obviously.
imagine if the guy was like, no, that's me. That's obviously me. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. That's where I live. Okay, what's your address? And the one that they always ask, what
It's
star
on.
sign are you?
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, this week's dumb criminal is someone who was dumb enough to steal something and then give it back to the very person that they stole it from,
Oh
telling them
my
that it was
God.
theirs.
Was it?
Unfortunately, they
I'm
didn't give us
guessing it
any
was probably.
names.
I'm guessing it was a college student that had taken it. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Well, no, because
Because
I
if it's
I
if it's a
doubt
club
it.
they're
'Cause
trying to get into.
yeah, maybe.
Well, if you said it was a club, I mean, the only reason
It's
you
a
would need to
bar.
use a fake
Yeah.
ID or a stolen ID is to get in.
Yeah.
So you're probably under 21, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
what
an
happened? What happened
idiot.
with the guy that was trying to use it? Do we know?
Yeah, so he was arrested. Yeah, arrested.
Oh, he ended up getting arrested.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Stealing.
and
What
knowing
an
where this
idiot.
is, you said it was in Iowa
Iowa.
City, right?
Iowa City, yeah.
Okay, so that's where the University of Iowa. Yeah, it's probably from
It's going to be a
University of Iowa.
college
It's probably an
student, isn't
Iowa
it?
student. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So that is this week's
Oh,
dumb criminal. You got to be silly to do something like that. Look at the picture, dude. Look at it. You know, surely the guy looks like his picture. How stupid.
Oh, definitely.
That did make me chuckle when I saw that one.
I do want to thank you for sending me that
Yes!
video from our dumb criminal last week. So there's actually video of the guy who got naked and got into the little aquarium / waterfall at what was it, Bass Pro Shops, right?
Yeah. I'll see if I can put that onto our Instagram. It was from it was from Krista. So you got to thank Krista for this, and she sent me a video.
Thank
She
you,
said,
Krista.
this is the video of this week's dumb criminal, and you can actually see the security. You can see the naked guy like jumping into the pool in this. It was in a shopping mall or something, wasn't it?
It was a Dick's or not Dick's. It was Bass Pro Shop. So it was a store. Yeah, big outdoor store.
Yeah, so you can actually see him completely naked jumping in and out of the water, and you can see the security guards telling him off. He's just there loving life, jumping in and out of the water, completely stark naked. Yeah, I don't know if I can save that video. I don't know if I can forward it, but I don't think I can. Oh, I can save. I think I can save it. I'll save it as naked guy and see if that works, and then see if I can actually post it on our
Hopefully.
Instagram, because it was
that
very
that made
funny.
my week.
I thought it was brilliant because when she sent it, she was like, I thought it was another one. I thought it was like, here's another one for you, and then she was like, no, this is this week's dumb criminal, and I was like, that is just genius. That's absolutely brilliant. Really good.
No,
so thank you, Krista. We really appreciate that. If you want to send us anything, by all means, you can do. Just send it through to us on Instagram. Is probably the fastest way to get an answer from us both, because we're usually there more than we are anywhere else. So Instagram, or you can email us, cherry@crimepediapodcast.com or morgan@crimepediapodcast.com. But your fastest and most chance of getting a response is probably from Instagram, to be fair.
Yep, definitely.
So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week as usual with another episode for you. Next week it'll be my episode. And for now, be nice.
And bye.